best descriptor I've managed to come up for this guy is, imagine if Mos Def, or maybe a Talib Kweli, maybe a mixture of both, grew up on J. Cole's music instead of the music that they actually did, then you'd get Cordae. That would be who Cordae is. Which, depending on what side of the fence you sit on in regards to J. Cole, or, you know, even Mos Def, Talib Kweli too, it could be a positive or could be a negative. And I think so far Cordae hasn't really carved out a lane for himself. I thought The Lost Boy was just fine, to the point where I didn't really have very much to say on it at all, aside from R&B, which I still think is a bit of a jam. It's got Anderson .Paak on it, so usually he brings his coolness to the table, and it's so infectious that it just spreads to everyone who he works with. And I think that really shows on that song. And I think much of the album wasn't really for me. It was pretty plain, pretty safe sounding hip hop album. Maybe like 2012 me would have loved that, but considering I've kind of developed my tastes for all kinds of rap to the point where even trap music I absolutely adore these days, I'm just kind of losing my patience with these kinds of up and coming rappers that have the flows, that have the you know, the hippity hoppity rhymey whatever you want to call it, but don't have a great amount of personality coming through, don't really have any interesting topics coming through, and they clearly want to keep the traditions alive in the genre, and I'm all for that. And some of the artists that do that, I mean Saba is a good example, do it very well. But there's just a school of younger hip-hop artists, younger rappers that just don't interest me, and this new Cordae album I think just cements that for me with him. I thought Jean-Michel was pretty promising. I thought the colder and a bit more like of a menace to the instrumental kind of suited Cordae. I wasn't exactly blown away by, you know, his rhymes or anything like that, but he sounded good and he was flowing pretty well, and I thought it was pretty telling that we'd have a track like this starting off the album, and it could have, you know, led to something really cool. But from there, it very much doesn't offer a lot of what you already haven't heard in the world of hip-hop. I feel like he plays it so safe, but often thinks he's saying things that are bigger and meaner and more thought-provoking than they are, and it can be really cringe. Mama's Hood, the most simplistic rhymes you could imagine. He's just constantly like falling in the trap of like rhyming really obvious words together. There's that whole thing where I think he like does mistake. I think he says take, maybe gate, just a load of like rhymes that just end in that kind of like A sort of sound, and it just gets really monotonous. And then he switches it up and then does like a whole another run of lines that just are really repetitive sounding and doesn't really rhyme any unique words together that sound good. It just sounds really basic. You can tell he's still young is what I'm trying to say, but Jesus Christ, smartest guy who dropped out, fuck your graduation, I think that shit is scam, somebody had to say it. Wow, someone had to say that thing that many people have already said, especially in the world of hip-hop. You know, university is a scam. Whoever said that before? But just that like holier than thou attitude that he brings sometimes, where he's like, I'm so smart, bro. I didn't need an education, bro. Westlake High might be one of the better examples of that as well, which closes out the album but also doesn't, because there's 2 extra tracks. This feels like the closer, but then he's got like the big name features on 2 tracks after, which I'll get to. But yeah, he's talking about how, like, you know, all the people he went to school with are just working in tech now, and he's out here buying a Range Rover, and he left the hood and he left the, you know, the life to achieve greater things. And I'm okay with that. I mean, well done for you. It's aspirational, but he's not really saying it in an inspiring way. You want to aspire to be like that, but he doesn't say it in a way that inspires anyone. He's just kind of saying, look, I'm smarter than all you guys that are now working in tech, which is actually a pretty smart job, to be fair, but I'm better than you because I bought a car. Just really immature type stuff that you'd expect from a younger rapper, really. The worst part about it though is the way he bloody talks over the beat, because this is probably the best instrumental on the whole album. Just really celebratory, really uplifting, and he just spends so much of the song talking. It's like the final track on that J. Cole Forest Hills Drive album, where he's just kind of shouting out people and talking and stuff. And that just never goes down well with me in hip-hop, man. I just find it so boring, and you're ruining the beat. You could be rapping over this instead of just saying things. Kanye did it on Last Call too. I'm not the biggest fan of that either, even as good as Kanye is. Then you got tracks like Super, which was just have like the most mundane hooks you could ever imagine. And the rhymes again, man. Super Bowl, Dr. Dre's Super Boat, Super Dope. It's just like, come on, man, who wrote this? It's got that like Jid type beat as well, where it's kind of like a bit harder and snappier, but it just isn't that banging. He's trying to be assertive with his voice as well. He's trying to be a bit more like domineering as like as a new guy in hip hop. Look at me, man, I've got it all. And he just rhymes the worst things together you could imagine, and that's the hook as well, dude. Just not keen on this. One From Me is just one of the tracks on the album that just kind of feels like it's there. The hook reminds me of something like BJ Chicago Kid, the Chicago Kid would sing, who I usually quite like on songs, but this just sounds like, you know, a bit like of a filler track, I kind of want to say, because again, it's not really adding anything in terms of the lyrical content. It's just pretty basic. It sounds really basic as well, like the music could be more interesting than it is, but you just choose this really average production. Today is similar as well, although I feel like this is a track where he's trying to step into the mainstream a little bit, because you got that Gunna feature, you got that more melodic, pop-driven instrumental too. The melody's actually pretty nice, but I don't know, man, it just kind of sounds really plain to me, and the beat feels like it's supposed to snap really hard, and it probably could as well, but it just kind of like doesn't hit that level of like, ooh. It just kind of makes you go a bit like, yeah. And another plain sounding track for me has got to be Chronicles, man. Just a really average like R&B, soul twisted hip hop track. You've got the Her feature on there. She's going to get a Grammy for this feature. You just know it. Probably one of the most mundane R&B singers out there at the moment, but the Grammys just pile all the awards onto her for everything she does. For whatever reason, and she just doesn't add anything to this track at all. Her vocals are just really average. One of the worst tracks though, probably the worst track actually. I don't know, there's a few that are pretty bad. You know what, actually there's two I could say are bad actually. Yeah, whichever you want to put at the top of the worst list, it's up to you. I'll leave that to you. But Sinister, man, so damn corny. Got the lyrics written down here. Alright, my flow sinister. Yeah, man, you have to tell us that your flow's sinister. It sure means your flow's sinister. This ain't rap music. This straight literature. This is straight literature, man. Who is William Shakespeare? Small-minded fellas, all your ideas miniature. Sinister literature miniature. Just like, come on, bro. Which, by the way, just for any avoidance of doubt, his flow is not even remotely sinister on this track. He's just taking a leaf out the Eminem book, I think, with just trying to be like, you know, rappity. I want to kind of assert myself, but I'm just saying anything. Eminem pops up later on this album as well with a feature where he's just saying anything. I don't know, man. I think Cordae's hanging around the wrong crowd at the moment. I think he's taking inspiration from the wrong people. He's going to get credit from the hip-hop heads, because I know people love Cordae, but I think albums like this are just going to be like products of their time. No one's going to look back at this and look at it and think, oh yeah, he was saying some amazing stuff on that album. It's going to just be forgotten, really. Or if it gets remembered, it's not going to be remembered for being lyrical. Like, fair enough if you like it, but I just don't see any lyrical moments on here that stand out. He's trying to like tie in this mini concept as well with all those little like voice note messages, things that pop up. Doesn't really amount to anything. It's kind of making me think that To Pimp a Butterfly has inspired a generation of rappers that just can't make an album on the level of To Pimp a Butterfly, but they're trying to make a concept album and they just don't really tie anything together. I'm looking at you, IDK. Gifted was the other track. Roddy Ricch on the hook, man. Awful chorus, awful chorus. We connected like the Wi-Fi. Wanted to turn the song off as soon as I heard that. I was ready to just throw my phone out the window. But with all the negatives, it's not all that bad. Like a lot of my criticisms were just songs were sounding plain. That to me isn't the worst thing in the world. I can get over that. I did actually think some tracks, like I said, the Jean-Michel track was actually pretty good, was promising, and I've already reacted to Champagne Glasses, and I still stand by this track actually as being probably the best, if not second best Cordae song I've heard so far. Laid Back got the best instrumental by far, easily. Cordae's flows are just lovely on this one. Really enjoy his voice compared to some of the other tracks. Not that I hate his voice, but I think he just kind of fades into the background a lot of the time. This track I don't think he does. You got that Freddie Gibbs verse, which I like as well. The constipated line is just funny. The lovely harmonica, which I believe is a contribution from Mr. Stevie Wonder. You can't fault it, man. And I like the line as well in the chorus where he says, thought the stress-free life was going to come with the money. I think that's quite a good lyrical idea, where on this track he's kind of just expressing that things weren't the way he expected it to be. And it's a bit of a wake-up call, and I like that. And I think this track was probably the best lyrically and also the best musically on the album. It's just a great pairing of both worlds that on most of the tracks, they were hindering each other in some kind of way. The lyrics weren't always that good, and the music wasn't always particularly that good. It's mostly an average album, I can't lie. But a track like this makes me think there is some promising aspects of Cordae's future, but he just hasn't got it at the moment. But I'm very interested to see what people think of this one, though. I can't really tell what people are going to be saying about this album. Is it worse than his debut? Is it better? I don't know. They're about the same for me. I'm going to go 5 out of 10. They were both pretty bang average hip-hop albums in my opinion, but that is just what I'm here to tell you, my own opinion. If you like it, great for you. Would love to see what you think in the comments. Interested to see how people react to this album. That's it. Thank you for watching as always. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts. Always leave a like. Always check out my Patreon and that kind of stuff. Would greatly appreciate it. Have a good day. Goodbye.